Chris Hassel, joined by Danny Kanell. We also have Brady Quinn with us as well. I heard Pete Prisco earlier in the day. He has been a staunch supporter of the current overtime rules. Because, I mean, it's kind of like the old book, if you give a mouse a cookie. If you say, okay, let's make the team go for two, and they get it, the other team still doesn't possess the football. So what do we do?
So I think it's broken. I couldn't disagree more with Pete Prisco because in what sport do you not let the best players in the most important position of the game not touch the ball? Like, could you imagine NBA Finals, the Lakers are playing, and LeBron James doesn't get to touch the ball for, whatever period of time you wanted to allow, and the other team could actually win without him taking the court at all? That's essentially what we do in that scenario. And I get the, defense matters too, and it does, but what about the defense of the team that scored? They don't have to prove anything. They don't have to go out there and get a stop. So I think very clearly it's broken, and I like some of these suggestions. I think the Colts-Eagles one is, it's pretty vanilla. It's pretty bland. Hey, just give the other team an opportunity to match it. I'd be okay with that. The Titans one, I think, is the same problem that you're going with. Some team's going to say, oh, man, we're playing against Patrick Mahomes, or we're playing against Josh Allen or Tom Brady, or pick that team. Our defense hasn't stopped them all day. We'll just go for two. We'll try it that way. And they could still keep the other team off the field. So I like the proposal of probably the Colts and Eagles, but I'll let Brady respond before I give my suggestion. How's that?
Yeah, you're letting the defense off the hook, DK. I mean, that's the reality of this, is we've all of a sudden come to a point where you make an example like that, but we see extra time in soccer. There's not necessarily the possibility that both teams get to possess the ball. They can dribble right on down and go ahead and shoot it in. It's no different than any other sudden death scenario where there's a chance that both teams aren't going to get a chance to touch the ball. That happens. It happens in sports. I find it ironic that 5 years ago, we changed and shortened the overtime period out of concerns for safety. And now it seems like that's the last thing on anyone's mind. We're looking at the overtime rules and saying, well, how can we make it so both quarterbacks get to touch the football? Okay, great. But what about limiting the amount of plays these players are playing throughout the course of a season, or even once we get into the postseason? Wasn't that one of the priorities back in 2017 when you shortened overtime? I'm not sure what the priorities are anymore. These don't happen that often where we turn around and go, all right, we need both teams to touch the football. This is all started by the genesis that was the postseason with Patrick Mahomes, with Josh Allen. There's other examples of that. When New England went to the Super Bowl, when they beat Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City and Arrowhead, that was another example. But by and large, look, someone's got to play defense at some point. And even if you look at the Tennessee Titans rule, they're saying the same thing. Like, okay, like you could still end the game if your defense can't stop them for a touchdown drive and a 2-point conversion. Like, yeah, you don't get to have the ball back again. I don't think this needs to be changed. I think we're making a lot about nothing purely because of one game in the postseason when really it's not in the best interest of the players.
But you kind of feel it in the air. When it happened last time, there's a coin toss and you're like, oh, here we go. And then, of course, drive right down the field and score.
But then it happened again.
I know. Exactly. I think there is an issue. I would say I think it's wise to address this because you don't want to see that happen. Look, Brady, you, Chris, me, we're all avid college football fans. I love college football overtime. I think you could tweak it because you want to bring in the kicking game. You don't want it to have a chip shot, which is barely longer than the NFL extra point. Have them start at the 40, the 45, and then give them both possessions. And then you could bring in the special teams into play too a little bit more and have them go at it from there. And if you were worried about, it going over and over and over, possession, score, like the Texas A&M LSU, which was 7 overtimes, and they're worried about player safety, then implement a similar rule where I don't like this rule in college football, but you could have them forced to go for 2 after the, second or third possession. And then I don't like the, hey, just trade 2-point conversions, but I do think if you made each team go for 2 after scoring, that would be really compelling. And I love college football overtime. I think the NFL, they won't do it because they're too snobby. They don't want to admit that they would take something from college football. But I think it would be one of the most entertaining aspects of the NFL if they implemented the college overtime rules.
I mean, look, the reality is I'm not sure this vote will pass. I think if I had to pick one of the proposed rules right now, it would be the Tennessee Titans because it still works within the framework of there's the potential chance that only one team gets the football. And I'm sorry, if your defense can't stop a team from receiving the kick, driving down the field and scoring, and then scoring a 2-point conversion, that's on you. I mean, that's the problem with the NFL right now is it's become such an offensive league that we let the defense off the hook. We act like it's okay. And we get to a point where we say, yeah, it's not really so much about the defense, which if I was a defender, I would be upset about it because it's only devaluing what their position really represents. Like it's only going to invest more money into a quarterback then or offensive players if it's really all about offense at this point. So again, I don't want there to be a rule change in regards to overtime. I don't think it's in the best interest of the players. But if you had to pick one of the ones that are put out there right now, the Tennessee Titans are the ones that I think I would lean towards, even though I don't think, like, the NFL has a ton of things we could focus on and try to change to improve the league. You know, officiating a review process, replay process, you know, instituting an additional official or sky judge, all those things. Yet this seems to be one of our focus for whatever reason, just because the postseason. Like, I don't get it. That scenario very rarely ever comes around.
And the Titans one, as we've talked about, that's the one where they're asking for a 2-point conversion. Both teams get the ball unless the first team that scores a touchdown goes for 2 and gets it.
Oh, you have to.
No, if the receiving team gets the football, drives down, scores a touchdown, and completes a 2-point conversion, the game's over.
Game over.
But the team has the choice to do that, right? They don't have to go for 2.
They could kick an extra
They
point.
could say, hey, our defense is playing great. We don't want to risk that because they could lose the other way. If the other team scores and kicks an extra point, they could lose that way. So they could have the option, which I don't hate.
You wanted to see it be more college, start at the 40-yard line.
I love it,
I wouldn't mind seeing that if you just take the kickers out of it altogether. Start at the 40, and you've got to score a touchdown. Take the kickers out. I don't want to see any more of the kickers.
I'm with you, man. Let's just eliminate the position altogether.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.